Hey everybody, Shar here, and welcome to the Blonde and Strong podcast. This is a podcast of strength and empowerment, with each episode dedicated to helping our listeners improve their health, well-being, to learn, grow, and unlock their strength from the inside out. I felt called to create this podcast to give a platform to inspirational guests to share their knowledge, experience, strength, and hope in order to empower others, to prove it's possible not only to survive, but to thrive. And this is done through open, honest, unfiltered conversations, a safe space for people to be raw and powerful through their vulnerability without shame or judgment. No topic is off limits as long as it has the intention of empowering our listeners. Our growth is our own responsibility, and no one can do the work for us, but I truly believe that we're stronger together. So sit back and relax. We're about to dive in deep. Come dive in deep with us. So on this episode, we have the beautiful Regina Leeds, the Zen organizer, New York Times bestselling author of 1 Year to an Organized Life, although she has written 10 books. That's just one of them. Regina, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I know you're joining us from sunny California. I'm not jealous at all. As I sit here in the pitch dark, our clocks went back last night. So we're actually an hour closer together for a very short period of time. So that's kind of nice.
We change our clocks next weekend.
Yeah, it's so funny that, isn't it? That they change at different times across the world. So sometimes
somebody should organize that better. Somebody should just do away with it. I love light. I'm a creature of light. And so this time of year is hard for me. I just, at 4:30, it starts to get dark. And at 5 o'clock, it's all over. And it's like, I like it when it's light until 8 o'clock at night. I feel like you can get more done. It's interesting how light is so psychological. If it's 6 o'clock and it's light, I think, oh yeah, I could just walk to Trader Joe's and do some grocery shopping now, or oh, I could do this, I could do that because it's light. And once it gets dark, it's like, well, it's dark now.
No, I know. I completely get that. I'm a creature of the light as well, and I much prefer the summer months.
You really gotta work on your mind and find ways that darkness works for you. Otherwise, you'll be depressed all the time.
Absolutely. It can be a real struggle, and it takes a real adjustment period. And we're just heading into that time now. Like by 5 o'clock here, it was pitch black already. So, but I think there's something. I think if you can embrace it and accept it and get snuggled down, get those autumn feels, get the winter feels, get your big sweaters out, get your fluffy socks out. I've got a big fluffy onesie. That thing's making an appearance soon. I think if you can kind of embrace it and get your cozy on, then it's not so bad.
I think everything in life this is so cliche, but it's not what happens to you, it's how you react to it. And I've had things happen to me I'm not Pollyanna. I've had huge challenges. And I really believe from the depths of my being that in the worst experience in the world, somewhere in there is a gift waiting for you. And it's up to you to find it. And I believe that so strongly that now if something unexpected and bad happens, a year ago, November 10th, who's counting? I was in Dallas, and I remember so clearly. I woke up in the morning and I was on fire. I was so proud of myself. I was there for 2 weeks. I was organizing 2 10,000 square foot homes, and I was doing it myself. I didn't bring in an assistant, and I felt strong and healthy. And with it, I was so excited, and I love both sets of clients. And I had a freak accident while organizing, and I broke my arm. And so I woke up in the morning strong and healthy. And that night I broke my right shoulder, my right elbow, and my left wrist in a freak fall. And I didn't break it when I fell. I thought, oh my goodness, my dogs were put in the kitchen, and I just looked down, and the smallest one is at my feet. When you're 6 pounds, you can go anywhere. But I got the step stool flew out from under me and ejected me back into the wall. So I went bang into the wall. And when you hit your shoulder, then your elbow follows. And that night, there I am in the hospital with two splints on. I can't get up and go to the bathroom. I can't feed myself. I can't brush my teeth. And it was such a juxtaposition of opposites in one day. And I'm totally healed now. I mean, it takes about 4 or 5 months, and I had fabulous physical therapists, blah, blah, blah. But even then, I automatically looked for what is the gift in this. And I had, I'm not going to repeat it because it sounds too precious, but I had an amazing spiritual experience in the hospital that was worth whatever I had to go through. It was, we say words a lot. We say, okay, I'm a soul in a body having an earthly experience, and I just experienced my soul and saw it. Well, I'm sharing it now, aren't I? And then a nurse came in, and I just saw her soul shining out of her eyes, and I thought, oh, it was the visceral experience of those words, and I realized that I was whole and complete, even if my arms were in splints. And God, I didn't mean to tell that story. It's so personal, but it's okay. If it helps somebody, then I get a lot of angry responses anytime I've ever shared my belief that within the worst experience, there's a gift. And so all I would say to people is, if you don't believe that, you don't believe that. It's okay. I'm not a minister. I'm not here to pound that into you. That's my reality, and it makes my path through life easier. And it absents me from being a victim. Because I remember I was raised Catholic, and then I spent maybe a decade in religious science, and then I found yoga and my guru. But in religious science, I remember our minister one day saying, there are no victims, only volunteers. And that when you accept that you're not a victim, that you have volunteered, I mean, as an adult, we are in control of so much, which is what Zen organizing is about. I believe also that you were born for a purpose, and everybody has a purpose, and it's something that only they can do. Nobody else can do it. You don't have to be a surgeon. You don't have to be a great philosopher. You might be a parking lot attendant. That's your place to take care of and do it to the best of your ability. And if your home is an oasis of peace and calm, it will literally nurture you and help you fulfill your life purpose, which makes getting organized far more meaningful than, oh, well, next Saturday I have to get organized, so I'm going to spend the day. I don't really want to do it, but I should. It elevates the whole experience. It makes it part and parcel of, it makes it almost a spiritual practice. I can tell you how to turn organizing into a mindful practice. So
amazing. Well, first of all,
yes.
I'm sorry that you've ever shared any of your beliefs like that and anyone's come at you with negativity, because what you were talking about as far as, being able to see the gift in even those darkest moments, like that's something that I share and is a common thread throughout all of my podcasts. Every guest I've ever had on says the same thing. So you found your tribe. You're part of my tribe.
I literally have chills. I have so many sweaters on, you can't tell, but that gives me chills that I would be speaking to an audience that accepted me rather than one that went, what the hell is she? I mean, people get angry.
They do. Angry. But then again, I believe that there's, like you said, if someone doesn't believe that, that's okay too. Like everyone has their own belief system, everyone has their own experience and their own journey through life. And whatever they believe, like I'm really tolerant and open and accepting of anyone believing what they want, like because I get to believe what I want and they don't get to tell me. So I'm not going to tell them. All I can do is share my experience. They either like it, they don't, they are with me, they're not, they're my tribe or they're not. I still love
Right.
them. I still accept them. I still have compassion and warmth and kindness for them. It doesn't really matter. But it's really interesting that you should say that because one of my last podcast guests, I've been like editing through the podcast just before we started speaking, and that was his whole entire message. He's living with stage 4 bowel cancer and he's not even 40 years old yet,
Oh,
you know
oh,
and he was diagnosed just under 2 years ago, and he's spent almost that entire time raising awareness and fundraising for other people and just trying to find the good in a really dark situation. So, but I believe that this has been my experience, is that the people who live with that kind of mindset are the ones that live the fullest, happiest lives. Because
I agree.
for me personally, there are some people who go through absolutely horrific things, and there's part of me that's like, you have every right to feel victimized and hurt and upset and angry and all of those things. But if you choose to live in that for the duration, all it's going to do is drain you and make you angry, and it will have a negative impact on everything else then that comes into your life. I can't live that way. It's
Mhm.
draining and tiring, and it makes me not a very nice person. So I don't choose to live like that. I choose very much like you do. When something bad happens, I allow myself to have the initial feelings. And then my first go to after that is, what can I learn from this? What positive can come from this? Like, what gift is the universe giving me right now? Like, but again,
Yes.
I'm saying that, but then I grew up around, you and yoga and spirituality, my parents. That was just kind of how I was growing up. So there's probably an element of that to go along with it. Um, but that has worked for me, and that's gotten me through my dark times the way it's gotten you through your dark times. The reason I've got you on today, Regina, is because you are
Yes.
the absolute expert on all things organizing. So organizing your life, but I think it's such a big fad right now. I've just spent I know we're all kind of still locked down and life is all still a little bit crazy, but Netflix is literally riddled and full of organizing programs, which of course I'm addicted to and I can't stop watching. But when I watch them, all I think about is you, because everything that they're doing, I was like, I knew all that anyway, because that's how I was taught to organize stuff when I was a kid. And there's so much to be said about that concept of being organized in your life, and your inside reflecting your outside environment, your outside environment reflecting your inside environment. And I think especially in these crazy uncertain times where everybody is feeling unsettled on the inside and we can't even go outside, how important is it that our environments, our homes, the places that are our sanctuary, how important is it for that to be organized and feeding and nourishing us at this point?
Absolutely. And to approach the task as uh, something loving that you're doing for yourself, that getting organized is an act of self love, not some horrible thing that your parent, your spouse, your children, or Netflix expects of you. That uh, you could draw a warm bath, you could go for a walk in nature, you could have a glass of wine, you could do all those things to make yourself feel good, or you could have a really powerful organizing session, because organizing, if you're doing it consciously, um, the gestalt there is to confront the things that you no longer need, want, or will use. They don't serve you. And in so many cases, I get really excited because I go into somebody's home and all this, let's say we start in the closet, so all this clothing is coming out that isn't worn. I call it fake prosperity. Ooh, look how good I'm doing. Look at all the clothes in my closet. I don't wear them, but I must be good because I have all these clothes. It's an unconscious thing people have. Women more than men. I mean, I've met 2 men in 32 years who have more clothes than any woman I've ever met, but they were the anomalies. And when I take those items and I take them to a charity, I get excited because those things that were languishing in a closet now have a chance to have a whole new life with somebody else. And I think that everything should be used, not just sit around as a relic. And they should not be frozen in time. You can switch things out and always keep everything fluid. My mother was very organized. That's where I learned it. But there were 2 ways that we were different. My mother said, once you find the perfect place for something, never move it. And I used to think, never move it. That means there's some aspect of you that's frozen. And I don't believe that we should ever be frozen. Life is always changing and we need to go with it. And the other thing was my mother never organized a closet or a drawer because nobody saw it. Her home was perfect so that when you came over, you would be impressed by her level of organization. And I used to say to her, Mom, you see this. Don't you want this organized for you? So those are the 2 ways we're different. And
the number of people who laugh at me, by the way, because
yes.
my wardrobe, so like my closet and my drawers, and I think I have you to thank for this, but my closet and my drawers are organized in so when you open the doors on my closet, everything is in color order.
Yes.
From black right the way down, so it's all in color order. And then within the colors, it's ordered with the category of clothing that it is. And then in my drawers, they've got dividers so that I can have my dividers. And then when it's drawers that go up, at the moment my drawers are a little bit different. They're under bed storage type things, so I can't exactly do my bottom up approach, but all of my trousers, bottoms, everything goes in the bottom drawer, then my tops, then so it's it goes in order of how I would put my clothes on my body. So everything is literally organized to the maximum, but that's I find it so much more it just makes my life so much easier and relaxing. And if I want something, I can put my hand on it. I'm not stressing myself out. I open my closet, I can see exactly what I've got. And like you said, if I haven't worn it I give myself 2 years. And if I haven't worn it in 2 years, I get rid of it. I have a lot of clothes, but I actually wear all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing doesn't get worn. So, but yeah, I have everything and it's color order, folded up in a particular way. And I just find that so much easier. People laugh at me though. They're like, what is going on in there? They think it's an OCD thing, but it's not.
It's not. Don't you stop. They're just jealous. Or, most people, the vast majority of people are not organized because they didn't grow up with an organized parent, and it's a skill. So if you can't swim because neither one of your parents swam and they didn't get you lessons, how would you know how to swim? And yet we think everybody should automatically know how to get organized. And if your parents didn't teach you, then you didn't grow up with that and you don't know what it looks like. Well, what you're describing is what it looks like. And it's meant to calm you and serve you. I mean, I say to people, when I come home at night, I hang my keys on the lock of my door because once I sailed out, see, this is how you learn things. Once, years ago, before I was an organizer, I sailed out of my house and I went, oh my God, I don't have my keys. Never happened again, because one place, that's where they always go. And it doesn't take any more energy or thought for me to hang them on the lock than it would for me to just fling them into the space, which is what most people do. And I say, I avoid the, oh my God, where are my keys drama, which, you know, I like to describe as the most popular soap opera in America. Where are my keys? Where's the remote? Where are my glasses? And if you just designate a spot,
Yeah.
and put things, my mother said to me my mother didn't mean to be funny, but my mother was hilarious. So she would walk up to me, I'd be at the dining room table doing my homework, and she would say, what's this? And I would think to myself, oh God, here we go. And it would be an empty glass, and as an example. And I would say, it's a glass. And she'd say, oh, where does it belong? And I'd say, in the kitchen. And she'd say, well, then please put it in the kitchen. Everything has a home, and it must be in that home so that the next time you need it or want it, you will know how to find it. And I used to think as a kid, yeah, I know. What's the big deal? Well, it's the crux of the matter. Everything needs a home, and it has to return to that home. You know, it would be like knowing you live on the street, but not paying attention to what your address was, and just walking into somebody's house and saying, well, I'm on the right street. I mean, I live around here somewhere. Is it okay if I just sit on your couch? That's the funniest example I've ever come up with. I love that.
Well, maybe you can tell my daughter, because my parents were not organized, either one of them, which I know you're highly aware of. I believe that I got all of my organization. I mean, I think I'm just maybe naturally quite an organized person. I like that order and organization. It gives me a sense of kind of peace and serenity and security.
Yes.
But I think I learned all of my organizing like techniques and skills and tools probably from you. And I very similarly to you, I put my keys back in the same exact place every night. When I go out, they go into the same pocket in my bag as well, so that I'm not searching in the bottom of my purse, like trying to find my keys. But it's like that with I do that with everything. Like whatever I use, it goes back in the same place. And I've spent my daughter's entire childhood telling her exactly what your mother told you. And I know she hated me every time I said it used to drive her crazy. But I also know that she does do that, like to a certain extent. She does follow that so that she doesn't lose stuff. So it's kind of, maybe I've managed to like teach her a little bit of something. It's really funny because I just moved house recently. And when I was moving in, my friend was like, I'd managed to move everything in and unpack and have everything away, and my entire bedroom like set out, laid out with everything hung up in its order and whatever, in like I think about 4 hours. And she came in and she was like, oh my God. She was like, I've never seen anything like it. She's like, I've never seen anyone move like so organized. Everything went in exactly how I wanted it to come out. And like everything was hung in a very particular way with like in sections so that it would go. And she was watching me going like, everything was labeled. I remember moving house and you putting labels on everything. Like, so every time I move now, like my boxes, everything is labeled as to like what room it's going into, and it's all packaged in a very particular way. But it literally changes your life. Like it makes life so much easier. So what I want, can you just tell people from, with what you've been doing this now for over 30 years, like this is your career. You've been organizer to the stars. You've written books. I mean, you've taught me everything I know about organizing. And what if you could tell people what you believe is so important? Like, what is Zen organizing and why is it so important to people? What does that mean to be organized? Without it sound like, I think people confuse it with being like an OCD thing, like a negative thing or something they're being forced to do. Why is it so important for people to take ownership of that in their life?
We have a finite amount of time, we have a finite amount of energy, and I believe that we come here with a purpose. There's a task I was given to do, something I need to contribute to the world, things I need to learn that are unique to me, and nobody else has these tasks. So I can squander my time and my energy looking for my keys, wishing I paid my bills on time, just wondering, waking up at a certain age, whatever, everybody's wake up age is different. Waking up at that age and saying, oh, what happened to my life? I always wanted to write that great American novel and I never did. Um, or you can be powerful and you can be in charge of what you do, when you do it, and how you do it. It doesn't guarantee that you will be successful in the eyes of the world. I'm not saying if you organize your home office, you will write the great American novel. I don't know if somebody is gifted or not, but I know that you will have an environment that loves you, nurtures you, and supports you in that quest to do your best. And one thing I had to learn in life, because I was raised by parents that only 100 on a test was good enough. And that's a lot of pressure. And you hear, do your best. It doesn't have to be 100. I heard that as an adult, and I didn't know I needed to experience that. And for me, I studied the martial arts, and I was terrible. I was so terrible. I was the only woman in class, and I was in class with a group of the most loving, wonderful men. And every week they would say to me, Regina, why do you come back? You're terrible. And I said, you don't understand. I know I'm terrible. I know that I will, if I live here, I will never be as good as any of you. I'm trying to find out how good I can get. And I say that because when you're going to get organized, you do it to the best of your ability. It doesn't mean you're going to become me. So that's the other thing. I mean, we have to be realistic. So what do I want to accomplish in life? Where am I headed? I made an analogy in the first book I ever wrote, that the trajectory of autumn leaves to the ground is beautiful, isn't it? Those golds and the colors are so gorgeous, and the leaves fall off and they walk to the ground, but it's a meaningless journey. You don't want to be like that beautiful leaf just falling to the ground. You want to direct your life. And sometimes things will happen, like when I broke my arm, and you're going to say, well, I'm not, there's a little detour here, but there's a gift in the detour. I'm not Pollyanna. It's not like I wake up every day and life is easy and I just don't know what to do with myself. I'm so giddy. It just means that I have tools. One of the things that Zen organizing is about, I teach people you have tools. And my analogy for that is, in the 1940s, I wasn't on the planet in the 30s and 40s, but I think that was when doctors used to come to the house and they would have their doctor's bag, and they would open up the doctor's bag, and somehow miraculously, unless you had to go to the hospital, everything that they needed was in that bag. Well, when you sit down and you think, I can't get organized today. I don't feel like paying my bills. Whatever it is, you can open up your imaginary Zen organizer bag and you can pull out a tool that will help you. It might be, oh, I need some aromatherapy. It might be, I never hear any organizer talk about how to prepare for an organizing project. It's just, and now we're going to organize your whole bedroom. And There's no thought given to, I'm living in a body. I need to prepare my body. I need to have a good meal before I start. So my brain is fed, because the engine that runs the organizing train are decisions.
Yeah.
And they're exhausting. At the end of the day, my clients are way more exhausted. I'm doing the physical work and they have to say yes, no, maybe, let me see. And I say to them, at the end of the day, you're going to feel beaten up and I won't be as tired as you are. So what have you eaten? Do you have healthy snacks available? Do you have water, nice fresh water that you can drink? Because that's the best thing for your body. Have you exercised? And I'm not talking about you are so gifted and amazing in the gym. I could never do what you do. I'm not saying you have to do yoga postures and become the greatest yogi in the world. For goodness sake, walk for 10 minutes just to get, you don't want stagnation of energy. Stagnation of energy happens in piles. Piles are unmade decisions stacking up. Stagnation of energy in the body is where disease starts. So, prep this body for this activity that you're going to ask of it, and know that you're doing it for a purpose, a bigger purpose. You want your life to be better, and you want to come home at night and just feel, oh, I am in my home. I'm in my, of all the places on the planet, this one belongs to me. It can look any way that I like, and I choose to make it loving and nurturing and supportive. And that's what Zen organizing is about: achieving your life purpose and doing it with the support of your environment. Because if you're living in chaos, then you're not giving over your life to what you were born to do. You're giving over your life to these extraneous dramas. And then we lull ourselves into thinking, oh, but I'm so busy. Busy doesn't mean productive. And which leads me to say, I really hate multitasking. You cannot do 2 or 3 tasks at one time and give them your focus and the depth of your understanding and do them to the best of your ability. There's an image of the mom. She's holding the baby in her arm and she's stirring a pot on the stove. Well, first of all, that's so incredibly dangerous. But the way to do multitasking is so where was I going the other day? I was going to the dentist, I think, and she's usually running behind. So I have my phone with me and I have the Kindle app. So on my phone, I'm carrying maybe 50 books with me. So I don't have to sit in the waiting room and just wonder, oh boy, what in 20 minutes? Huh? Well, it's wasted time. I can be doing something that I enjoy. But in the home, and it's also part and parcel of, I'm a meditator. And I've spent my years practicing being focused on one thing. So the idea, it doesn't make you more productive. It just makes you busier, and busier fragments you. So that's I think that's a Western American thing. I got to be busy. I got to be in motion all the time. It makes me feel important. It's like a drug.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be, I've heard a couple of different things in my studies around things like that with management and multitasking. And the reality of it is that it's actually, multitasking is an actual, it's fake news for a start. Like, you can't actually multitask. You can't do 2 things at once. You can actually only do one thing at a time, but your brain can switch very quickly between one task and another. Women are better at that than men, but only because there's a part of their brain that's slightly larger in that,
the corpus callosum.
Yeah, that controls that. So they can switch back and forth between different tasks that are also logical and feeling based. So women can switch back and forth between that and carry out tasks a little bit quicker back and forth, but you can't actually do 2 things at once. And I remember being given an exercise to do, a multitasking exercise to do, where you had to set an alarm for 5 minutes, and you had to focus all of your attention and energy onto one task for 5 minutes. And when the alarm went off, you had to put it down exactly as it was and then move on to the next task and give that your full focus and attention for 5 minutes until the alarm went off, and then you went on to the next task. It's like a basic exercise for teaching managers how to be able to handle the onslaught of a bunch of different things going on and having so many different tasks and deadlines and people and things to manage. Because otherwise, like you said, it's this absolute chaos and people are just like in this weird busy state. I think the flip side of that, like you were saying, that Western idea of just being busy, 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 like you have to grind and push and da da da. In my experience, I think there is an element of, yes, it's good to be able to like be hardworking and do what needs
Oh,
to be
sure.
done. However, I think people who make themselves chronically busy are usually just trying to avoid dealing with other things. So I've had to learn that the hard way, because burnout's a real thing. And, like it doesn't actually fix anything working that hard. Like sometimes
No,
like, so
I,
now I have a way more balanced approach to it. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Like multitasking is a big thumbs down for me. It's, pick a task, do it to the best of your ability, move on to the next one. Give yourself a time limit of how long you want to do it for, if you really want to, and then move on to the next thing, so that you're not getting completely engrossed in one thing for way too long, if that's what you want. But
and
yeah.
these things can also be a mindfulness practice, because where do we, I mean, organizing is the perfect place to practice mindfulness. Mindfulness in the sense of, where do we spend most of our time? We're in the past, remembering some slight from some ex-partner or our parents or a friend, and we grind on that. So I'm here in the present and I'm paying my bills, but what I'm really thinking about is what happened when I was in the first grade. Or we future trip, and I'm paying my bills, but man, in 2 weeks when I go off to ski in St. Moritz, well, that's going to be the best. And then we lose our lives, because life is in the present moment. And if you make a commitment to focus on the present moment, the task at hand, when you're organizing, it's going to be easier. So you can't stop and say, oh, uh, this blouse, I bought this when I was 18. I was in Europe for the first time with my father. It was the only trip. I mean, when it's very sweet. Some people want to tell me the story of every single item. And I have to say to them, I want to hear all these stories. But after we organize, you can tell me these stories over coffee, because if you tell me a long story for every single item, at the end of 4 or 5 hours, we won't be done. And then you'll be angry with me that we're not done and you've spent a nice chunk of change. So organizing is the perfect place to practice mind control. If I pick up this bottle and this bottle holds a deep emotional memory, I have a choice. I can fall into that memory, or I can say, I'm going to put this aside, and perhaps there will be, this is from that trip I took with my father when I was 18. Okay, there may be other memorabilia from that trip. I'm going to put them all together. And at the end of this closet organizing session, then I will go back to those. I'll pick the one or two best and I'll let the rest of them go. Nobody is honored by you keeping every single item they ever owned.
It's really funny.
And
I heard I think it was Marianne Williamson said that, we are the ones that assign meaning to things. Things mean nothing. We're the ones that assign meaning to them. We're the ones that invest emotion into them. They're still just things. And I actually found that extremely liberating. And I ended up throwing all kinds of stuff away. I'm quite a sentimental person. Um, but it made me realize that I had attached a lot of meaning to physical material things that meant nothing really, because all the memory and emotion was inside me anyway. I didn't need the thing. I didn't
That's
need the thing.
That's very true. I did learn one thing from my therapist, because people would say to me, I am afraid to get rid of this item. I'm afraid I will forget the experience. And I didn't understand that, because like you, I believe the experience was here. And she said to me, it's quite possible that these people suffered a trauma. And
Yeah.
when you have trauma brain, you may forget the experience. And she said, um, so they want to save the items so they'll be triggered and remember the good. But now, in the age of Pinterest and digital photography, you can have a secret board that only you can see, that is filled with images of these things that you don't have to have in your home anymore, that do have a memory. And then when you want to, you can just sit down with your iPad and scroll through them and go
What
down
a,
memory lane.
what a great idea. I never even thought of that. So you can literally just take a photo, upload it to your own personal private like Pinterest board, and that can be like your little memory board, like your little mood board. And
Yeah.
you don't need to keep the stuff in the house.
No, no. And,
Game changer.
in the history of mankind, no dead person has ever come back to life and said, what do you mean you gave away my wardrobe? It's not, it's
Honestly,
not,
don't.
not happening. You don't have to worry about that. They're not going to be angry with you that you gave a dress or a coat away. It's not happening. And when I started, I think there were 3 books published. And when you said you were a professional organizer, people looked at you like there was blank. They were waiting to hear teacher, doctor, lawyer, Indian chief,
Punchline,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's the
And then
punchline?
yeah, and then they'd say to me, well, what do you do? And I'd say, well, I could come in and organize your closet, or your garage or your bathroom, or I could just do your whole house if you've moved. And then they would look at me incredulously and say, people pay you to do that? And now, of course, it's a big thing, and there are certain professions, actor, writer, organizer. I'm sure there are more, but I'm sensitive to those 3 that people just think everybody can do. And when people write to me for advice, I say, you may be organized. It doesn't mean you can organize somebody else. That's a whole different skill set, because you don't you have to know how to work with people to get them to divest themselves of what they don't need, don't want, aren't going to use, and do it in a way that they take that into their DNA and can do it after you leave. And then they don't have to be involved in the process of creating the beauty. But like you, I organize everything is by type, and everything within that type frame is color. It goes from white to black. So anytime I want something, it can only be in one place. If it's not there, it's at the dry cleaner or it's in the wash. Um, but but I've worked with people in the past year, well, not COVID year, the year before, who say to me, "Oh, you're so nice." I worked with somebody else, and she yelled at me and was abusive, and I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine browbeating somebody when they've called me in for my help. So no, not everybody can be an actor, a writer, or an organizer. That was a little
You've been
tangent.
all 3 though. You've been all 3.
I've been all 3. Yes.
What I would say, like for me personally, what I get from organizing my space, why it's so important to me, is my home and my environment and my space set the tone for my life. So if I like, it's really important for me to have a very like my workspace needs to be set out a certain way so that it actually makes me more productive. I can't sit down. I actually moved house because I had nowhere to work.
Ah,
Like my workspace in my home wasn't working and I moved. And I know that might seem massively extreme, and maybe I could have done something with it, but it wasn't my house to do something with, if that makes sense. So
absolutely.
um, it just made more sense to find a space and an environment that I could make more conducive to what I need to be more productive in my work, especially as my work right now is very creative. So I need to be in a space where I feel calm, where I feel free, and I can just be creative and have a lot of like natural light and be able to see outside. If I'm boxed in like a room, I can't handle that. Like that doesn't work for me. But I know that about myself. So it's like my workspace, I like to have a certain way. My bedroom has to have a certain feel about it. I like having, like I've talked about my closets and my drawers and things like that. And then now I've like included a lot of like plants. I really like that there's actually
Mm.
nature inside my room. That makes like a really big difference. Um, and for me, having a warm, comfortable, organized environment helps me, it gives me a sense of peace and calm. It makes me feel like fulfilled, and it
Mm-hmm.
gives me like a sense of achievement as well. And I just have some like real zen calm. I can just get on about my life, and it makes my work life better. It makes my sleep better. It makes me enjoy sitting down to eat my food or cooking my food, like all of that. It just makes everything so much nicer. And so it's so important to me. What would be your top tips for people on how to start getting themselves organized?
The first thing you have to remember is the whole of anything is overwhelming. So you could be fired up from this podcast and say, yes, I like what both of them said. I want that feeling in my home. I'm going to go organize my closet. And then you go in and you look at your closet and you say, but not today, because the whole of anything is just overwhelming. So the way to success is to break things down into chunks. So I would look in my closet, because we all have closets, so it's an easy way to speak about organizing. And I would just say, my whole world is this first foot. I'm just going to go right here and I'm going to go item by item. Now I'll say to somebody, so do you want these items? And they'll go, yeah. And I say, no, you have to stop and look at each item and make a conscious decision about it. It's not, yeah, I want all of that. No. So break your project down into small, controllable, manageable, non-overwhelming parts. Then I have what I call the magic formula. The first 3 years I organized people, I couldn't sleep the night before I saw a new client. I thought, oh my God, tomorrow is the day. Somebody's going to say, organize this. And I will look at the this and I'll say, I have no idea. And after 3 years, I said, you know what? It's all the same. I maybe one day I'm touching paper and the next day I'm touching clothing and the next day I'm touching tools in the garage or lotions and potions in the bathroom. But I keep going through the same process, the same 3 steps. So I called them the magic formula, because you can use the magic formula to organize anything, even projects. What I say about Zen organizing is, you go through my New York Times bestseller is 1 Year to an Organized Life. It's my favorite of all my books because of what was going on when I wrote it, not because it became a New York Times bestseller. But that is showing you how to organize everything you could possibly have in your home. That's practice. What you're really doing is changing the gears in your brain so that you automatically look at anything you have to do and say, the whole of anything is overwhelming. Now let me do the magic formula. Eliminate, categorize, organize. The eliminate is, now I'm looking at this space and I'm thinking, whew, there's a lot here. I start to eliminate what doesn't have to be there. If you feel really stuck, you can set an alarm and do whatever, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or 20, not more than that. and just pull out what you know you don't need. If I were in your office, it would be um, um, unopened mail from charity. You know, there's nothing personal in there. They wanted money from you. You don't have money to give them right now. You don't have to save, the return address labels and the little notepad or cards they sent you. You didn't ask for that. You can let that go. You don't have to save Christmas cards with pictures of your friends' children. They're just catching you up. They don't expect you to have a special album for them. Sales and that you missed, catalogs that come all of this debris. Just go through the debris. You've got to have things in your closet that you look at and go, oh man, I never wear that. A lot of times we have things in our closet that secretly shame us. You still have your tags on some items. You bought that because you were feeling bad about yourself that day, and you thought this dress that you're never going to wear would make you feel better. But now you feel guilty that you bought that dress, and you know what I mean? So you just get the debris out first, but eliminate. Once you eliminate, it's automatically less overwhelming, because now instead of this much stuff, oh, I only have this much. As you are eliminating, you're also making decisions about what stays. That's when you start making your categories. So if I'm doing a closet, that's why I don't want, first of all, I don't want all anybody's clothes on the floor. Maybe what's on the bottom is what I'm mostly going to keep, and now it's going to be wrinkled. I mean, I just don't get the whole concept. Also, I'm robbing myself of workspace. So on my bed, now I can have all my shirts together, all this together, that together. So I see my categories. And the last step is to organize them. Well, in a closet, yes, I can, where would be the most logical place to hang each of these categories? And then each category starts with white and goes to black. It looks like an impressionist painting. It's really beautiful and it's easy to find. And then the last thing to consider is ease of maintenance, because maintenance is a part of life. My example is, if you go to the dentist tomorrow and the dentist says, Sharda, I'm so happy to tell you, you don't have any cavities. That doesn't mean you never have to brush and floss again. That doesn't mean you are now frozen with a perfect mouth. That's the result of hard work, and you have to keep doing it. So you have to keep up with your clothes and your files and your home. It's a living organism. You're not in a museum. So, and I like to do maintenance based on how a person thinks. There are basically two categories of people. People like me who have a photographic memory. I can put something in a drawer and close my eyes. I can tell you what's in every drawer in my bedroom and what the position is. It's just a freaky gift I was given. If you put things away and you don't see them, then there are ways that I work with you so that you will remember. So the whole of anything is overwhelming. You eliminate what you don't need, don't want, aren't going to use. You put everything you are going to keep in categories. You organize your categories. And that's when you look at products. That's when you can go to the Container Store. People go to the Container Store first, or Bed Bath & Beyond, or wherever you shop. And they'll show me they bought 100 hangers because they were sure they needed 100 hangers. Well, after we eliminate, we find out they only need 55. So now we have new clutter. We have organization tools clutter. And almost every big home in America has a closet that I call the Container Store. It's got this overflow of stuff that was bought that you assumed you were going to need. You don't buy your tools until after you see what am I organizing? And then maintenance. Just remember that maintenance is a part of life. So if you follow those steps, you can organize anything. You can't mention anything that wouldn't fall in line if you use those steps.
That's so true. And maintenance is a part of life. It doesn't really matter what you're doing, whether it's, I think in any kind of self-improvement, any kind of lifestyle changes that you're making, you can go so far, but you have to maintain it. Funnily, I wrote a post about it the other day, and it's that concept of, I think people It'll be exactly the same with your organizing stuff. Like you might go in and organize everything for everyone, and it could be all right for like 2 weeks. And then if you haven't got the buy-in from them and they aren't practicing what you've taught them, then the place is going to look like a hoarder's den again by the time, a few weeks has passed. And it's that whole concept that I think that process takes a lot longer than what people give it credit for. Like, I think they just think like, oh, I can get someone to come in and organize everything for me and that's my life sorted. Or I can go and hire a personal trainer and they're going to write a 12-week program for me and that's my whole life sorted. Like, I'm going to be fit and healthy and have abs and I won't have to ever think about this again. Or it might be that they've got a chronic illness, and then they're like, well, I'll just go and see this doctor who's going to give me some pills and that's going to fix everything. Life just doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. And what I've come to find is that you have to practice literally like consistent daily execution of all of these things that we learn and implement in our lives for like years on end. That's when they become like an inherent part of who we are at our core. And then you don't have to think about them anymore. They just happen because that's who you are. Like,
and you're going to be practicing maintenance anyway. So if maintenance might be, I walk in my house and I fling my keys wherever they land is where they land. I put my coat on the floor. I put my clothes over there. That's your system and you're very loyal to it. So there comes a time when you have to say, am I loyal to a system that sabotages me? Or am I loyal to a system that nurtures and supports me? That's the choice. There isn't really more energy expenditure in being organized. It's just using your energy in a more productive way. It's the same thing. Well, that's what people don't realize.
What I know is that I grew up in quite a chaotic household as a child. My house had a lot of chaos about it. And I don't remember either of my parents being, it's really funny actually. My mom definitely, she doesn't have the organizing gene. She's a free spirit. She likes to just live, she would happily walk in and throw like, but that's just like how, that's her all over, that's, and she's worked very, very hard on becoming more organized. And she is doing much, much better with it. My dad was a funny one because everything was in chaos around my dad, but then he also had these weird little OCD tendencies. There were certain things that had to be a very particular way and he couldn't budge on those, but everything else was just a bit of a mess. And then I think just the whole situation was a little bit chaotic. And I always craved order and structure. And I wanted to know where my things were. And I wanted to have that safety and security and stable home environment. So I believe that organizing gave me a way of creating that for myself, no matter where I was and no matter who I was with. Like, it was something that I could control myself and how I behaved, and I got to build my environment around me in a way that supported me the best. And for me, that has been a real blessing in my life. And it means that I always have my own nice, safe home space, and I can create that anywhere I go, whether I'm traveling, whether I'm at home, whether I'm staying with friends or whatever. I know how to create that space for myself. And I know that there are people out there who this comes very easily to them and very naturally, but those people are a little fewer and further between, I think. But I think everybody craves that like warm home environment. I think that's something that everybody wants, especially in this day and age where everything is so crazy. everything is so uncertain. Being outside your home is crazy. You're kind of stuck inside your home a lot more than you used to be. So I think it's really important for people to be able to create that really comfortable home environment that nurtures them and helps them to feel calmer and more peaceful, and gives them a safe space outside of the global chaos that we're kind of dealing with at the moment. Um,
Absolutely.
I know that you've helped me with that throughout my, like, maybe not even realizing it. I mean, we had the conversation about going to IKEA with my family when I was 11 and how much fun that was. um, but you,
Well, you have to add that we were looking for bedroom furniture for you and your sister in a room that you shared, and we were in IKEA for 7.5 hours.
yeah.
It was so epic that that adventure made it to one of my books. I forget which one, but that was an epic day.
I mean, first of all, you may be one of the only people who survived that, like, 7.5 hours with me and my sister together in our childhood, because it was rare that anyone would even be around us both together for that length of time. So well done. You definitely deserve a badge for that, a badge of honor for that. Yeah, my little sister and I couldn't be more polar opposite in
Absolutely.
everything, in personality, in likes, dislikes, character. Like, we are so different. We are the complete opposite ends of every spectrum, me and Catherine. So for us to have to share a room, I think, like, this is why we get on now, because we don't have to share a room, but, like, I think when we were younger, that was a real yeah, it was a real interesting experience. But I mean, you were able to help us with that, and it's definitely set the tone for me in my life as far as how I build my environment around me and what's important to me. And then I've been able to, from that, get to know myself better and learn how to create that space. And that's a lot of what you taught me just as a kid. Um, so how can other people reach out to you and get your help? Because I think this is something that everyone needs help with right now.
Oh my goodness, right now well, I will tell you that, okay, when COVID started, uh, like everybody else, I was in shock. I mean, I was in a very busy time, and all of a sudden, everything stopped. And it felt incredibly dangerous just to go to Trader Joe's and buy food. Um, and and I thought, okay, I have to find the gift in this. So the gift for me was, there's nothing that I love more than working one-on-one with someone. But it'll probably, I mean, I do have exceptions. I have a client who's flying me to another state to unpack her in her new home. She's been my client for over a decade. I would go anywhere in the world with her, and we will take precautions. But on a day-to-day basis, I'm not trucking in and out of people's homes right now. So I thought, I am going to use COVID, this time that has been given to me, I'm going to use it as a gift. And my business partner and I started taking classes online. And I just changed October 1st my feed on Instagram. So you can come to Regina Leeds. Well, actually, if you go to reginaleeds.com, you can automatically find my books. You can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, you know. But what I'm looking for right now is a tribe of people who get the deeper, richer meaning of why one gets organized. And I'm going to start teaching classes online, and we're going to have a private Facebook group, and we're just going to be together for as long as you need. If you come for, there'll be a set number of classes that you'll own. You can access at any time. You're always welcome to come to the Facebook group, and you can leave and come back, and it's going to be incredibly affordable. But I would love to have a tribe. And so go to reginaleeds.com. From there, you can find me on social. You can write to me using email. And even if you don't want to take a class you're paying for, if you just want to follow me, every day on Instagram, I post a picture. I had over 300 images, and I took them off and we started fresh. So every day there's a picture that illustrates some aspect of Zen organizing, and then I write about it. So it might be journal writing, aromatherapy, exercise, good food. I'm a vegan. I don't ask everybody to be a vegan. I just ask you to be conscious about what you're putting in your body. You won't get the same benefits from a Snickers bar as you will from a healthy omelet, if that's what you're having for breakfast before you start organizing. So it's all just about being conscious and using the environment as the place you practice to wake up here and here.
Amazing. So everyone can catch you on reginaleeds.com. They can follow you on Instagram. I did notice that you cut that right down. I was wondering where all your images had gone. So now that I know that that's what you're planning, that's amazing. They can find you on Instagram, and you're on as the Zen Organiser. Is that right? Yep.
If you go to reginaleeds.com, you can click on my social media icons and go right there. You don't have to think about.
I'm going to add all the links onto the description anyway, so everyone will be able to find you on there. And then starting Thanksgiving, people are going to be able to join your classes. Is that right?
They will, starting Thanksgiving, they will know about the first class, because I think it's a great holiday present. You want to give somebody a gift that, they're the person who has everything. You can give them the gift of a class with me, and the chance to be in this. The Facebook group will stay together forever. So you might leave, take your 4-week class, leave, and then in 2 years say, you know what, I have an organizing project now and I don't know what to do. And you come back and I'm yours forever for one small fee. And we launch January. The class launches January, but Thanksgiving weekend, it goes on sale.
Amazing. Well, Regina, I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing all of your wisdom, sharing it with me for my life and with people over the last hour. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. It was my privilege.
So I just want to thank everyone for taking the time out of their busy lives to listen today. So please don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, and share. You can leave us a 5-star review or a thumbs up on YouTube. If you've liked what you've heard, as it really helps us get into the ears of more listeners and change more lives. So until next time, stay strong, my friends.